I suppose it first started out with the usual things which kids collect, rocks and stamps and coins and so on. And one of the early things that really got me going was stopping for a picnic on the way to my grandmother's in Canada when I was about 5. And I was rumbling around looking at rocks and found this marvelous, huge fossil rock with lots of crinoid stems and other pieces embedded in it. And I was very excited about it and told my dad. And he came over and thought it was a load of concrete with bits of nuts and bolts, which in fact were the crinoid stems of the actual fossils. And so that was one of my earliest finds, which I still have. I went from that on to being really influenced during a summer holiday on Shelter Island out past the Hamptons in Long Island. And we stayed in some cottages, and when we went to pay the chap who owned these cottages, who was a retired sea captain, we went into this marvelous room he had, which was just like a museum, filled with all kinds of relics, including a wonderful whale's jaw, sperm whale's jaw, suspended from the ceiling, and there were shells and tribal items and shields and spears and every kind of thing, even a tattooed Maori head, all these wonderful things. And of course that was just the dream of my life, and I thought that's one day what I want to have, is a house and a collection with all these fantastic things gathered throughout the world and travels. My interests have shifted a lot over the years. When I came to Christie's in 1968 to work for them, I got involved in collecting different sort of things. I got into furniture and all that kind of thing. Various other markets and so on influenced me again. But later on, by the sort of 1980s, when there was the terrible Monday crash of '85, I'd sort of got fed up with the whole collecting of antiques and thought, well, I need something new and do something a bit different. So at that point, I got interested in mid-century and modern, and what I called my mother wouldn't like it period of inflatable furniture, plastics. So I've had a lot of changes, and I lose interest in something but pick it up on something else, and it's hard to say what actually kicks it off, but there'll be just some little spark, and then I'll go off and collect that for a while, then I get fed up with it and collect something else. Collecting is almost everything in my life. It's had a huge influence on me. It's a constant stimulation that you can't get from anything else. I know I've been involved in having to sell some things, but it's really the gathering and the learning and the experiencing of what these objects give you. Some things, they completely grip you because of the story or the history or where they've been. Other things like photographs or photograph albums, particularly military ones, you have a real experience of what it must have been like, because you're looking at, say, a caption, particularly a captioned military album, will be fantastic because you're living your life through the thoughts of the chap who's recorded with his photographs the objects that you're looking at. But one of my favorites is this little collection here, which is a leather bag which shows you a number of objects, and there's sort of rings, there are bracelets, and a little label here which has also a tooth filling, and it says, bracelet rings and toe rings taken out of the crocodile shot in the Ganges River by O.J.E. in 1915. And so you have all these, which are the only things left because the acid in the croc's stomach just dissolved all the remains of the poor woman who went inside. Well, now that I'm getting pretty long in the tooth, I have to think about having a bit of a clear out and parting with some of these things. And a lot of people, their stuff only gets sold when they're dead. And so I thought it'd be more enjoyable really to let some of these things go now while I have some sort of control of and the enjoyment of seeing other people end up with them and adding them to their collections and having at least I can pass on the stories and the histories as far as I know it with them to somebody who then hopefully will do some more research or be thrilled with them just as I was. It's difficult to know exactly in trying to work out just how much stuff I have. I have sort of collection books because I record everything and write it in the same way that I've kept a diary since 1959 every day. And I write usually in the diary stuff that I found and so on, but then I transfer it all into books. So I have great sort of inventory stock books of collections, and usually in those books I write down where I've bought the thing or any history that I can find. But I suppose in all there must be getting on for, I'd say, certainly 8,000 to 10,000 different objects and items that I currently have. And as to what I've had over 65 or 70 years of collecting, more than 70 years actually, it probably runs into getting on for 100,000 different things that have come and gone. The one thing that I'm particularly lucky about is finding my wife Fiona, who we've been together 32 years. I don't have to sneak objects into that house like most collectors have to bring things in under the dead of night or bring something in, and then if it's discovered, say, oh, I've had that years or whatever else, and there's argument about it, whatever. Very often the things I bring in, if anything, FIFA says, oh, we must keep that. You don't swap that or don't sell that. And because she's also interested and has collected things herself and was an auctioneer when I met her. If I were asked to describe the collection in 3 words, I suppose they would be historic, eclectic, and unusual. I think the only real advice about collecting is never collect stuff because you think it's going to be valuable or whatever else. It's got to be something that absolutely grips you and that you fall in love with and feel that you can't live without, that you ache at night over thinking, am I going to get that, or I hope I get that.